Hi, thanks for joining me. Welcome back to the channel. So this video today is going to be about last weekend's record store day, which I got up reasonably early. I didn't get up at the crack of dawn, but I got up reasonably early, as I always tend to, because there were a few things. There were specifically two things which I absolutely had to get. And then there was an impulse purchase, which I don't regret in the slightest. So I'll just sort of run through, my story of it. So first of all, the two things that I had to get. Right, the first one is Yes, live at the Rainbow, London, England, the 16th of December, 1972. Now, I mentioned this in my Close to the Edge definitive version video, which I'll put a link to up here. And if I just grab that record, anyone who's a regular viewer will probably have seen this video. But this is a very, very fancy set of Close to the Edge, which includes in here, there's a vinyl issue of it. This is a Blu-ray of various bits and bobs, and then there's the regular album, and then 4 CDs of various kind of Stephen Wilson remixes and outtakes and the like. But the thing about this which most appealed is these 2 CDs here, which is basically this concert. Okay, so I bought this, and if you want to hear about what I think about that, then do visit that. Do have a look at that video I just linked to. Okay, there'll be a link down below in the description. Okay, so that's one of the record store day purchases I made. Now the other one that I absolutely had to get, again, this relates to a previous video. I'll just take this out of the cover here. So Tori Amos, an absolute favourite artist of mine, and I did a video on this album up here. I'll put a link to up here and also down in the description. And this is, this is just spellbindingly good sounding record. Wonderful concert, wonderful music, wonderful performance, very different arrangements to the studio arrangements. It is its own thing, and it's absolutely, utterly magnificent. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, I've also got this on CD as well. And the CD contains 4 more songs than this LP version does. For Record Store Day, we have this. And if you look at the this cover, it is an absolutely beautiful companion piece. Absolutely beautifully done. And this has those 4 tracks. Now we've got Here in My Head, Crazy, Sister Janet, and Mother Revolution. For those who don't know these songs, Here in My Head, I have to check my notes. Here in My Head was the B-side of the Crucify single from Little Earthquakes, her first album. Crazy is one of my all-time favourite songs on my all-time favourite Tori Amos album, Scarlet's Walk. That was an absolute must-have. And then the B-side of this LP, Sister Janet, was the B-side of Cornflake Girl, which was on Tori's second album, Under the Pink. And then the last track on this 4-track LP is Mother Revolution, which was on The Beekeeper, which is actually the album that follows Scarlet's Walk, and in my opinion is vastly underrated. It's possibly my second favourite album. I absolutely love it. And there was a period where I found it quite hard to choose between Scarlet's Walk and The Beekeeper for my first place Tori Amos album. Anyway, so, in both cases, I'd heard the music before. Obviously, this is from the CD version of this, and the Yes is basically 2 of the CDs from this. So I ought to point out this Yes is actually a triple album. There's 3.5 sides to it, because if I pull out the 3rd disc and just show you the back side of that, misses. There we go. you've got a sort of fancy engraved waste of space type of side. Anyway, so those were the absolute must-haves. So I arrived at Raves from the Grave, my local record shop, at about 8 o'clock in the morning last Saturday, and I queued for about 2 hours to get in. The two guys behind me in the queue, Johnny and Nigel, hadn't met either of them before. I don't think they'd met each other before. And, you know, we got chatting, and thanks very much for the coffee, Johnny. We got chatting, and it turned out both of them were actually queuing for the Dreadzone album, Second Light. And I was ahead of them in the queue, obviously, and when I got in, there was more than 2 copies left. I would have let them have them if there hadn't been, but there was about half a dozen copies. And I saw Dreadzone actually back at the time of this album. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but it was down at Exeter. I think it was Exeter University Students' Union. I've got quite a fond memory of this album, and I've got this on CD, and it's, you know, it is a great album. It's, you know, I'm into my prog really, but if there's one other sort of guilty pleasure, if you like, that I've got, there's a couple of other bands I've seen live several times. One of them is the Imagined Village, and the other one is Afro Celt Sound System. And both of those are kind of like a sort of a dubby, electronic, dance music melded with kind of reggae, folk, classical, sort of just Celtic music, all that. It's sort of, I find them absolutely fascinating and incredibly wonderful music. And Dreadzone is just absolutely of that ilk. The songs on here, Life, Love and Unity, I'm sure you've heard that. Little Britain, Canterbury Tale, I mean, it's absolutely delightful. And I got to thank Johnny and Nigel, because I wouldn't have bought this if it hadn't been for them talking about it. And you know, I'll talk about this one first, really in depth. So this is a double album, this release. I think it was released on vinyl back in the day, but I didn't get it. And typically a record to this era, it would be blooming expensive if you could get one. So this is a double album. One of the records is a sort of a greeny blue translucent vinyl. And the other record is kind of opaque orange. And I played the CD and I compared it to these, and these are more open. Obviously you've got this massive driving kind of dubby bass, and then you've got these sort of, you know, ching kind of little dub kind of reggae kind of rhythm guitars and drums and percussion, and it is just the space, the openness it's better than the CD. And you know, a double album, beautiful cover, nice inner sleeves. I noticed this was cut by Matt Colton at Metropolis Studios in London. It really is absolutely beautiful. It's pressed at GZ Media, which can be, you know, a cause for concern, but not in this case. It's absolutely beautiful. You know, it's a wonderful album anyway. And any of you who know the CD, this sounds even better than the CD does. It's as simple as that. There's more space. It's kind of more organic. The higher elements, if you like, are more kind of sweet, and the bass has got more sort of depth and texture and sort of a propulsive drive to it. So an absolute back of the net hit. £33 for a double album that just sounds phenomenal, and you know, double album of phenomenal, very, very, very listenable, very, very accessible and enjoyable music. Okay, so first of the three, you know, absolute hit, back of the net. Right, now I'm going to go to the Tori Amos, okay? Because I talked about this already a little bit, but you know, as I say, we've already talked about the deep diving live LP, which I absolutely love, and you know, really cool title, Diving Deeper Live. So, as I said before, it's the, you know, it's the 4 songs that were extras on the CD release, and you know, like the vinyl version of the rest of this album, it is an absolute delight sonically. You know, the arrangements are sort of explored and extended and improvised. It is just absolutely beautiful. But I've got to say, Mother Revolution, the bass and the drums at the start of that track. What did this cost? £23. Not very much. I'd have paid £23 over and over and over again just for the first couple of minutes of Mother Revolution. It is staggering. It is absolutely staggering sound quality. And this is you know, like I say, it's a live album, but my God, this is beautifully recorded. It's phenomenal performance, and it is just stunning. This is so thoroughly recommended as a companion to this. I've got no idea how many copies they've made, whether they'll release this again after the event. I kind of half doubt it, but if you like Tori Amos and you haven't got one of these and you can find one, get it. It is staggering, okay? Now, that's 2 hits. Let's get back to the Yes and see where we go with this. So the first thing I'll mention, I mean, you've got a really nice cover here. You've got a beautiful cover on the Dreadzone, and on this you've got a what can I say? A functional, cheap-looking cover. So it's a triple album, no gatefold. All 3 records just stuffed in one sleeve. No, you know, printed inner sleeves, no inserts, no nothing. It really is Spartan. And as I said, we've already heard this music on the definitive edition of Close to the Edge, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. Now, we better talk more about this because, you know, here it is on its own. So the first thing is, I don't think that this is what you would call a great recording. It's, you know, I think the performance is okay. Alan White was new to the band at this point in time, so he certainly, you know, wasn't Bill Bruford. But, you know, that's not to take away from, you know, the achievement. He joined halfway through this tour and he had to learn hours and hours and hours of music, very complex music, you know, at the drop of the hat, really. So it's no, you know, I'm not knocking what he actually did, but I don't think it's the world's greatest performance from Yes. The Yes Songs album, which you probably know, triple album in a beautiful sort of four pane gatefold cover, that's sort of made up of a selection of the best performances across the tour. And then there's the Progeny series, where you can either buy a best of the Progeny, which is pretty much the same as, well, it's different selections to Yes Songs, or you can buy, I think it's a 21 LP 7 complete show set, which I have got on CD, I haven't got on vinyl. You know, I'm a bit of a Yes completist fanatic, but not that bad, okay? So the thing about this is it's really interesting to hear it as a sort of a historical document for Yes fanboys. Absolutely, it's worth having a listen to this because it's, you know, you are there at a complete Yes concert, and from that perspective alone, it's really interesting. But okay, I don't think it's a great recording, first of all. And I say that because the mix is just, this is obviously off of the desk, but like the keyboards and the drums are really kind of in your face. And, you can see they're sort of struggling to get the mix right. And there's another thing, which is, I would swear this would have been recorded to tape, obviously, back in the day. And I don't think that tape is in the best of health, because it's not like complete silence type tape dropouts, but it is definitely a sort of a fading in and out of the mix at times. And at times the keyboard is right in your face, and also the drums are right in your face. And I genuinely think that the version on this sounds better. So I'm not sure whether they're both. This one is, I believe, cut by Bernie Grumman. Yeah, mastered by Bernie Grumman. Okay. And I think we might be the same here. So, they're obviously taken from the same place, because, they're taken from the recording made from the desk on the 16th of December 72. But I think the mastering of the CD version is just a little bit better. It sounds a little bit more balanced and a little bit tidier. So out of the 3 records that I bought, this one is one that really isn't a hit. I would say this is a miss. Now, there's a couple of other instances here, which I want to just mention. All right, I'm almost certain you won't be able to see this, because it depends on the angle of the light. But I'll insert a photograph here. But just here, and there's a few little patches. Whether you call this non-fill or whether you call this stitching, or whether non-fill and stitching are the same thing, I'm not entirely convinced. But it's like a longitudinal sort of scratch, but it's not a scratch. It is. I think it's it's where the vinyl hasn't been pressed properly, hasn't got into the groove, and it's just a little bit of noise. So I'm going to take this one back, and hopefully they've got another one and I can change it. But the irony of that is, I don't know where this one is pressed, to be perfectly honest. Oh, made in the Czech Republic. Okay, so this was pressed at GZ Media, same as the Dreadzone. But, the Dreadzone sounds absolutely fine and perfect. And this one is, that fault is just a sort of, that only affects the length of that, which is like, a fraction of a second. Although there are there are instances of that throughout the record, maybe half a dozen. But that's, that doesn't explain the basically, the reasonably poor quality of the original recording. That's what I would say is the major flaw of this. So you've got a reasonably, I wouldn't say it was the world's greatest performance, definitely not the world's greatest recording, and the mastering and pressing of this is frankly inferior to the CD version on here. So this one is really, no matter what angle you look at it from, this one is a miss. I think on that note, I've covered everything I need to cover, and I will catch you all again soon. Thanks very much. Bye now.